Welcome to another tutorial video. We're going to be discussing the liquidation preference in venture capital in this tutorial. Yes, I'm aware that we've covered this topic of the liquidation preference in several previous VC and startup videos. However, some of this previous coverage did not cover all the nuances of the topic or present the most robust and flexible formulas. So in this tutorial, I'm going to start with a very simple example and then move into some more complex formulas that address points like how to recalculate the ownership when you're looking at an exit for a startup, what Pari Passu seniority or the Pari Passu term means, and then simulations when there are many VC investors and it's not immediately obvious how to decide which investor group will convert into common shares versus which ones will stay in preferred stock. So for all the files and resources, you'll want to go to this link, breakingintowallstreet.com/kb/venture-capital/liquidation-preference. I'll also pin this below the video as the first comment, so you can just click it right there and go to this link and get all the files. This is another excerpt from our venture capital and growth equity modeling course. As I said, we'll start with the very simple example, then we'll talk about what makes liquidation preferences a little bit trickier. I'll explain how Pari Passu liquidation preferences work, and then we'll go through an example of a waterfall and how to set up a simulation so you don't have to decide in advance what each investor group does. So a liquidation preference in venture capital and startups gives the VC investors the option to earn back a fixed multiple of their initial investment in a sale or a shutdown rather than their ownership percentage times the exit equity value. And in effect, it gives them downside protection when the company sells, but it does so at a disappointing price or at a price far below what the VC investors were looking for. Venture capitalists typically invest in startups via preferred stock rather than common stock, and the preferred stock here often comes with extra rights and privileges, such as this type of liquidation preference that provides this downside protection. So to illustrate how it works, I will go through this simple Excel example where the seed investors have invested $2 million in the company, they own 15%, and then the Series A investors have invested $5 million and they own 25%. So let's go to Excel and show you how this works. You can see it right here with the investment amounts and the ownership percentages. And in this case, with a $100 million exit, the outcome is very positive. The Series A investors get $25 million. The seed investors get $15 million because they own 25% and 15% respectively. And they earn multiples of 7.5x for the seed investors and 5x for the Series A investors. But now consider what happens if the exit value is only $10 million, so it's a very disappointing outcome. In this case, they actually lose money because the Series A investors only get back $2.5 million, the seed investors only get back $1.5 million, and so the seed investors have effectively lost 25%, and the Series A investors have lost 50% of their capital in this deal because the company has sold at such a disappointing price. Now, if you have a liquidation preference in place, I'll enter a 1x liquidation preference multiple for both of these, the seed investors and the Series A investors. Now that shifts things around because instead of losing money, the Series A investors at least get back their money. They get back the $5 million they invested, the seed investors get back the $2 million they invested, and so they both get 1x multiples. Now this is still a disappointment, sure, but at least they get back the money that they initially invested into this company if it turns into a disappointing sale or shutdown scenario like the one shown here. So that's the basic concept for how it works, and I don't think it is too complicated or confusing. I've summarized it a little bit in bullet point form here on the slides, but the 1x liquidation preference means that these investors will get back what they put in, assuming there's enough in exit proceeds to cover it, and then the common shareholders here get diluted effectively. Even though they own 60% of the company, they only get $3 million here, or 30% of the exit price, despite the fact that on paper they own 60%. And this is how a basic liquidation preference works. Now, what makes it more complicated, moving into part 2 here, is that when one investor group decides to stay in preferred stock and use its liquidation preference, you actually have to recalculate the ownership for the other investor groups. And this is what people often overlook or gloss over when they're explaining this concept. Let's go back here and go through this. I am going to delete the formulas here, and then I'm going to explain how we can re-enter them and how to set these up properly. So for the Series A investor proceeds, this formula is actually not too complicated because, as you might expect, all we're really doing here is looking at the liquidation preference for the Series A investors, and then we are comparing it to the exit value if they convert into common shares. And so in this case, with a $10 million exit price, clearly the liquidation preference of $5 million is better than the $2.5 million they would get if they converted into common shares. So that's the basic formula. It's just a simple max function. Of course, we also need to modify this a little bit because first off, this should be a negative because it's a distribution to the Series A investors. But then the other issue is that if we have an exit equity value that is well below this, that is below even the liquidation preference, we need to factor that in. So for example, if the exit value here falls to 3 million, we can't distribute 5 million to the Series A investors. Instead, we have to limit it and we have to say that we're going to take the min between whatever the result of this function is and the exit equity value right here. And this ensures that if the exit equity value is only 3 million, then the Series A investors just get that whole 3 million, and then there's nothing left for the seed investors or for the common shareholders. And as I say in the slides here, this is a fairly simple setup for the Series A investors. Where it gets more complicated is the seed investors, because here is where we need to actually recalculate the ownership based on what the Series A investors do. And specifically, we have two cases. In one case, if the Series A investors stay in preferred stock and take their liquidation preference, we need to change the ownership and the proceeds available to the seed investors. And then in the other case, if the Series A investors actually convert to common, it's actually simpler in this case because we don't need to recalculate the ownership. We just need to be careful to use the correct numbers for the proceeds here. So let's go down and start entering this function. The first thing I'm going to do here is look at what happens with the Series A investor proceeds. And if this number is less than or equal to their liquidation preference, that means that by definition, they must have just taken their liquidation preference. So they have not converted to common stock in this case. In that case, we are going to take the negative minimum between the max of the liquidation preference for the seed investors right here, and then whatever their common equity is worth at this point. So to do that, we need to recalculate the ownership. I'll take the seed investor ownership right here, and then I'll divide by the seed investor ownership plus the common shareholder ownership. We'll take all that, and then we'll multiply by the proceeds remaining at this point. And so we are doing a direct comparison here between their liquidation preference and then whatever they own of these remaining proceeds, the remaining 5 million at this point. So we have that, and then I'll put the D26 on the outside because we also want to apply a cap to this. In other words, if the remaining proceeds are less than this liquidation preference, we want to limit how much the seed investors can get to the amount of proceeds that are actually left at this point. So that's one case. And then the other case is simple because in this case, the Series A investors and the seed investors convert to common shares, and so they still have the same ownership percentages that are shown here. So in this case, I will just do a negative min, and we'll take the max between the liquidation preference right here, the exit value if converted right here, and then we'll once again cap it based on the proceeds remaining right here to avoid scenarios where if this is really bad, such as 1 million in proceeds remaining, then we don't want to give them 1.5 million or 2 million or something like that. So we have that, and now we have this set up, and that is how these formulas work. And I think you can see this a lot more clearly if you move down to much lower exit values. So if you exit this company for 6 million, let's say, then you really see it here. Because in this case, when it's a $6 million exit, the Series A investors get their 5 million liquidation preference. Then there's only $1 million left for the seed investors. They have a $2 million liquidation preference. They would get $900,000 if they converted to common. So of course, they stay in preferred, get their liquidation preference, but they can't get this full 2 million because there is only 1 million left at this stage. And so they just get that 1 million. And that is how this formula works. On that note, I have been saying so far that the Series A investors make their conversion decision first, and effectively they get top priority for the exit proceeds. But in real life, VCs are often ranked differently, and they have different types of seniority. And one common approach is to give them what's called Pari Passu seniority, or the Pari Passu term, which means on equal footing in Latin. So if a startup sells for only 5 million, without this Pari Passu term, the Series A investors would get all 5 million because of their $5 million liquidation preference here, and the seed investors would lose all their money. Let's go into Excel and just see what that looks like. If I delete the exit value here and replace it with 5 million, you can see exactly what happens. The Series A investors have the top priority, and so they get everything here because of their $5 million liquidation preference. The seed investors get nothing, and they completely lose all the money they invested into the startup. But with the Pari Passu term, the $5 million would actually be divided based on each VC's liquidation preference instead. So you'd get roughly a 29%, 71% split right here. The easiest way to handle this is to add another condition to the Series A formula that checks if the exit equity value exceeds the total liquidation preferences or there is no Pari Passu term. And if those are the case, you proceed normally. If not, so if you don't have enough available to cover the total liquidation preferences, then you split up the exit equity value based on these percentages instead. You don't actually need to modify the seed formula here, so let's go in and look at how this works. So first of all, I am going to unhide one of the rows up here where we have Pari Passu seniority. I just hid this at first because I didn't want to complicate things, but right now this is set to 0. If I set this to 1, we can now incorporate this. And so this is in cell D8 of this file. So we can keep most of this formula and we can just add something in the beginning to handle this. So I'll say if or, and then we'll check D8. So if this is 0, then this Pari Passu term doesn't apply and we can pretty much just ignore it. So if it's 0, we can ignore it. Also, if the exit equity value right here is greater than the total liquidation preferences here, we can also ignore this issue because this Pari Passu term really only comes up when you have a very negative result like this one where the exit value is less than the total liquidation preferences. So if either of those is true, we can just default to using the same formula as always that we entered before. If, on the other hand, Pari Passu is enabled and our exit equity value is less than the total liquidation preferences, then we need to distribute this differently. And to do that, I will use a negative sign. I'll go to the exit equity value right here, and then I'll multiply by the Series A investor liquidation preference, and then I'll just divide by the total liquidation preference right here. And I forgot parentheses on the outer part of that. And so this is how this works. If you do the math and you look at this, this really is about 71% of the total, and then the seed investors here get about 29% of the total, which matches exactly the percentages for the liquidation preferences right here. So these are also about 29% and 71%. And in this case, since we only have 2 investor groups, you don't actually need to modify the seed investor formula, but in more complex models, you probably would need to change that around. So that's how you can add Pari Passu seniority to a model like this. The last topic I want to cover is what happens when you start running into a lot more investor groups. So what happens when you have 5 or 10 different VCs involved and they each have different terms? While you could potentially write formulas to handle this and decide what each group does in terms of converting to common versus staying in preferred, it's much harder. The formulas get quite unwieldy and it is more difficult to decide in advance. So usually it's easier to set it up in Excel such that you have some type of simulation where you run the numbers for every possible conversion decision, you group together similar investors, and you see what happens over 8 or 16 or 32 or 64 different possibilities, depending on how many investor groups there are. And then you assume that they make the decisions that optimize the overall proceeds to all the VC investors in the deal. If you have something like participating preferred and participation caps, that can make the math even more complicated. But let's go and just take a quick look at how this might work. So I have an example here taken from the advanced cap table module in our VC course, but this is a flow of funds analysis where essentially we have these 5 different VC investor groups and we've grouped together their conversion decisions. And then in every single case, we look at the upfront equity purchase price or the exit equity value here. We have the liquidation preferences and we don't assume that one group is going to take a certain action. Instead, we look at every single possibility. And if you look at the total number of columns here, in this case, we have 8 different possibilities. So 8 different sets of possible conversion decisions here. And then based on what happens, we just select the optimal conversion decision here. The optimal decision is just whatever maximizes the total investor proceeds based on the conversion decisions they've made. So we pick whatever is best for the VCs and whatever is worst for the employees and the founders of the company. So this is what it might look like when you get to something more complex like this. When you have this many different investor groups, it's just not feasible to write single formulas to plot out what happens in a deal like this one. Let's do a quick recap and summary now. The simple 1x liquidation preference example I think is pretty intuitive to understand. All it really says is that if you have a very low exit value, like $10 million here, then instead of distributing percentages of the common equity based on the actual ownerships that the VC investor groups have, it's usually better for them to take their liquidation preference to stay in preferred stock and get this back rather than getting back a common equity percentage that would result in them losing money. What makes it more complicated is that if one group stays in preferred stock, then you need to recalculate the ownership for the other groups below them. And even if they have the same seniority, depending on how the model is set up in the terms, you may actually need to recalculate the ownership and the proceeds available as well. We went through some of the formulas for that. With Pari Passu liquidation preferences, this is relevant when the exit value is less than the total liquidation preferences. So 5 million here versus 7 million in liquidation preferences. And when this happens, you split up the exit equity value based on the liquidation preference percentages instead. So instead of just giving everything to the Series A investors here, you actually split it up between the Series A investors and the seed investors. And then in very complex models, you'll create a type of waterfall schedule where you look at all the different conversion possibilities, and then you pick the optimal one that maximizes the proceeds to the venture capitalists. So that's a little bit about this concept of liquidation preferences. Hopefully now you have a better understanding of how they work, the basic concept, and why in practice they can actually get somewhat complicated to implement in Excel, at least if you do it correctly with the formulas.